Welcome back to our channel. Today we're doing our third and final session.
Last one
of our little uninvited book study. We just had our last meeting this past Thursday. So we're gonna go ahead and cover the last two meetings that we had, which was chapters 12 through 16, through the end of the book. Get started. We can start with chapter 12.
So this session, whenever she was talking about using what you learn and actually applying it. Basically, this one was talking about where you put things in motion that were never meant to be in motion. It was basically talking about how God climbs in the boat with you. He doesn't like run from your race. I feel like that was like, is that starting to ring bells?
Yeah.
I know these last two meetings were really far apart because of my school stuff. So usually they're not this far away. At this point, It's been like over a month since our last one, instead of just like 2 weeks ago. Oh, because that was the whole week where she had talked about her abortion.
Oh.
That was what she had talked about there in that one. And basically talking about how, like, what actions had led to, basically it was like a chain reaction of like, because of this, then this and this and this and this and this, and like how things snowball, and like basically, not that like that's just one example of that, but how in our lives sometimes like the decisions that we make and the things that we start to set into motion can bring about things that we never like predicted for ourselves.
Yeah. I feel like now that I'm looking through chapter 12, it's called The Enemy's Plan Against You. And she's kind of talking about how like once your mind starts going, it can make up like the worst scenarios in your mind. And like Klissa said, kind of like set things into motion that like don't even need to be there. She kind of like equates it to a lion, like a lion attacking, because she like was even in Africa at one point, and like there was a lion brushing against her tent, and so she was just like, is what we're like filling with ourselves, is it helping us fight the lion, or is it feeding the lion? The lion that's like trying to attack. I don't know where I'm going with this. Sorry, I'm just like looking at the things I have underlined.
That kind of goes along with what I had underlined. It's basically talking about like, it says what we have to remember, that where we pay attention matters more than we know. Our minds and hearts are like dry sponges, and what we focus on is what we will soak in and saturate us. So similar to what she's saying with the lions, like if we have a fear, or if we have a habit, or if we have an addiction, like those things will keep stalking us, like trying to get us down, because that's the goal of the enemy. And so what we focus on and where we pay our attention, and what we like, are you putting into motion positive and like good things that are going to be helpful, or are we putting into motion and paying attention to things that are going to like feed those bad thoughts or bad addictions or bad habits?
Yeah, because I even have underlined here, the devil wants me to fill my emptiness with an unhealthy dependence on the acceptance of others. So I just thought that was good.
Yeah, that is good. It's coming back to me now. And then I think chapter 13 was more about the like, if you are convicted in your life, like it should bring about change, not like complacency. Because this one's all about like application of what we know to be true, and then taking action because of that.
I was just gonna read this part. It says, we can go to Bible study and amend every point made, but if we don't apply it to our lives, we won't be changed. And I'll even take it a step further and say that if we've been exposed to a teaching that we know we need to implement, and we don't make any changes, that's a clue that the hardening of that part of our heart is in process. So if you like literally know that something is true and you still choose to not like make a change in your life due to that, then
That's on you.
it's on you, boo.
Yeah. Well, and this is what she kept like, do you want to read
That whole
quote? The whole quote of this like session, I feel like, was
inspiration and information without personal application will never amount to transformation.
It's a lot of Asians.
say it again.
For the people in the back.
Inspiration and information without personal application will never amount to transformation.
Right. It's like, what's the whole point of like
Being inspired and
right.
like, if you're never gonna put things into motion, which I know is so hard. Like even for me, like just remembering throughout the week to like, I don't know, someone walking past.
I saw that too.
even just like remembering throughout the week, because you feel super inspired when you're in groups of people who are like thinking the same as you, and you're getting things off your chest and you're talking, and like all these groups make you feel super inspired, but then how are you actually applying it?
And it also goes with when, like, I know a lot of people go to church on whatever day, and I think we were talking about this in class, like, some people are churchgoers, but they're not,
Christ followers.
Christ followers. Like, they go to church and they go about the motions and they go about their day. They go to maybe like for a social activity, or they go because they feel like they have to prove a point or whatever. But then when they come home, like in the other 6 days of the week, they don't put whatever they learned or anything in motion, so that like, it's like you're going to church and you're like feeling inspired one day, but then the rest of the days you like take 6 steps back, and then take another step forward on that day, and then another 6 steps back, and you'll never get anywhere if you're not actually putting in motion every single day.
Right. It's not supposed to be a habit, it's supposed to be a relationship.
Yeah.
Like, the Lord of the literal universe died for all of us.
Yeah.
And we're like, meh.
You can have like
still
2
feel like
hours
it.
in the
You can
morning.
have 2 hours in the morning
Yeah.
on Saturday, Sunday, like whatever.
I'm too busy throughout the week.
But the rest is mine.
Yeah.
That's my time.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? So like, without actually applying what you're learning, you're literally, it's like, how big of a slap in the face must that be to God? And I know, I'm sure.
And that
like,
is rejection to him.
Yeah.
Like, he knows what rejection is.
He's a loving God, and he, like, again, he knows rejection, but can you imagine, like, the things that you created and then you also redeemed again because we failed? I'm like joking, okay? The enemy's trying to get to me. But no, those things, like, he's literally done that for us time and time and time again, and we're just still just like, nah.
Yeah, we let things get in the way.
We still just, and then we were reading the book of Hosea, and not reading the book, but talking about the story of Hosea in class this week too at church. And basically it's like, we are like giving ourselves freely away to these things that like we were never meant for. And so basically it's like, are you going to apply and be transformed by the stuff that you hear and the stuff that you experience, or are you just gonna kind of throw it away? So yeah, that was last week's session. Was there anything else from that?
I underlined these 2 things that I can just read.
Yeah.
That just talks about like living, like we were just talking about, just wanting to focus on like our lives and just worldly things instead of God. It says, the world's plan always leads us to places of pain, loneliness, and a deep aching for belonging that just seems out of reach. Because the need to be loved and accepted runs so deep, we find ourselves doing things we never thought possible just to try to satisfy those desires. What starts off as a seemingly small compromise can easily become a complete contradiction to the people we long to be. So, I just thought that was good.
Yeah, it snowballs. Danny, don't.
She's gnawing on her bone.
Oh,
If you hear that.
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, I think this one was talking about putting our hope in people and like relying on people to fill
Which kind of
the only things that God can fill, which I think I was just talking about
Right.
like that. And this one says, it even steals the best in our relationship with God, because instead of him being our hope, we misplace our hope in people who can't wholly love a desperately broken version of us. Only God can do that. I've heard this quote where like, if you're in a relationship and like with someone and you're just depending on them for your hope and your joy and your happiness, like, and that's only what God can give you. I heard the quote where it's like, my husband, or whoever his name is, John makes a really good husband or boyfriend, but a really crappy God. So like,
yeah, that's so good. And that goes with anybody, whether it's like your parents, because that's who taught you when to go to church, whether that's your mentor, whoever that is. Like, you can't be putting your faith in them. And I love this quote. It said, "Save me from the hurt and heartbreak of following after good things the wrong way." Because like, relationship isn't bad. People aren't bad. Those things aren't negative, but if we chase them the wrong way and if we put too much weight in them in the wrong way, it just, I poked her in the eye. It's just gonna set us up for heartbreak. So yeah. And then the last thing that I had in there was basically saying, there was a quote from one of the prayers that said, "I fight from victory, not for victory." So it's not like we're toiling and striving and trying to get all these things right because we need to fight to win. We have already won. Like, again, God has literally died for us and he created us for this purpose. So like, we already have all of this that we want. And so fighting and living your life from a place of like, I already have this within me. I don't have to look for it from you. I don't have to look for it from you. I don't have to create it for myself. The victory is already won. It just releases the pressure off everybody.
Okay, now this is
what we just did Thursday.
A couple days ago.
2 days ago. This is fresh.
Yeah, no reason to not
No
remember.
excuses. We won't have to search for much. The whole topic of this one was olives. The olive tree. She was just making lots of parallels between the olive tree and us. Does anybody want to talk about the olive tree?
I can. So I think she was talking about how olive trees, like if you were to like take an olive from an olive tree and eat it, it would be like really bitter and gross and you'd want to like throw up. But
I never knew this.
But before you can eat them, like you have them in your dinner or whatever, they have to go through a whole process of like, I don't know what to say, like pruning, washing, like salting, like all of these different things, pressing, all of these different things, and multiple times before they are able for us to enjoy. So that kind of makes a parallel to our lives where a lot of times before we get the like sweet end result, we have to go through a lot, like this whole process of the pressing, the washing, the salting, before it's like that in-between step where he's working on your heart before he gives you what you're praying for.
Yeah, that was good.
That was good.
Nice.
Nicely said.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. I mean, that wasn't what the whole book was about, but that was like the gist of her video and the olive focus and all that good stuff. So yeah, no, awesome job. Because I feel like, again, sometimes we go through these moments where, and I know both of you, me and you, and both like resonated with that, but basically it was like, when you feel far from God, how do you reconcile that? Like when you go through the moments of being crushed or pressed or squeezed or washed, like those are good things that we need, but we can't let them chase us from the Lord. We need to recognize that those are the times that are going to draw us near.
Oh, and it was also this whole quote, this whole chapter 15, was the quote,
Yes.
yet not what I will, but what you will.
That's right, yeah.
Like, let your will be done in all aspects of our lives.
Because the other half of the video, the whole reason that they were on the olive topic was because this whole last chapter was about the gospel, basically, and the Lord being crucified. And that whole scene started taking place in like a grove of olive trees where the Lord went to pray with his closest friends before he was betrayed and taken to crucifixion. Basically, in those olive trees, like she used those as a symbol, but in those olive trees is where he was like literally crying out, Jesus, the Son of God, was literally crying out and being like, take this from me. Like, I don't want this to happen. This is scary. This is terrible. Like, is there another way?
Yeah.
Let this cup be taken. Let this cup pass from my hand. But in the midst of that, even though he didn't want what was happening, even though it was terrible and he was scared and it was ugly, he still, like, those, and I feel like she describes them in an awesome way. She's like, these, like, enemy, like, crushing, darkness, destroying, and these 9 words, like, he rewrote history. And he was basically like, not what I will, but what you will. Like, let your will be done, basically.
Yeah.
And that was just empowering us to be vulnerable with the Lord in our prayers and in what we want, where we can still tell him what we want, but we need to not cling to that so tightly to where we are doing away with his path for us. So it's not bad to desire things, but at the end of the day, you should be desiring what the Lord wants for you. This is good too, because it was talking about kind of like how we see the Sabbath, like Jesus died on Friday and then he rose on Sunday, and it's kind of like in that waiting before the resurrection, like don't lose hope, basically. Like Jesus died and it looked like all was lost, but there was a little bit of a delay between the death and the resurrection. So just like in your life, there might be a delay between the death of whatever you're feeling and then the resurrection of like things becoming anew. Love ya.
Next.
This moving on. Oh, so it's about teachers.
Yeah.
We had like 3 of us people at the meeting the other night, or at our Bible study, were teachers, and we were like, this was so sweet. Because she talks about a teacher. And she was like, I don't remember a single classroom lesson that this teacher taught, but I very clearly remember the way she made me feel.
the one part that I liked, when she was, this like relates to the teacher part, she went to a school field trip and she was so excited to go to wherever they were going. I think it was like a newspaper place, and just as she was about to go in the building, she got stung by a bee, and then she had to go home, and so she didn't get to enjoy it. So she was like so excited and ready for it and thought it was gonna like change her life because she loved to write, but then it just got like snatched away from her. And this like part of this like little section here kind of just explains something about like relationships. It said, but there have been seasons when I just about destroyed our relationship because I was so terrified of him one day leaving me. I imagined affairs that never happened and a whole host of other crazy scenarios that simply weren't true. It was just like winning that contest but not enjoying it because I was convinced another wasp was coming at any minute. It's like you're expecting bad things to happen.
Yeah.
So you just like ruin it anyways.
Self-destruct.
Yeah. Self-destruction.
Because going on the heels of that, this paragraph was talking about, and this goes right back to what it was talking about in the last section too. Like, as you can tell, there's like a big theme throughout this whole book. And honestly, that's what the gospel is, so not surprised. But it says, our Lord's divinity has never been hesitant to step into the mess of humanity. He is the great answer to our every desire, and he will not let our need for divine, deep love, meant to be fulfilled by him alone, be cheaply met by lesser things. He may very well give us good gifts. He may entrust to us relationships and success and blessings of all kinds. After all, he loves to give good gifts to those he loves, but he will not honor the chase of those things.
Slap.
Hit me right across the face, but don't you?
Yeah. Oh, bam! His word. That's the thing. Like, he is like, I am meant to fill that void, not him,
Stop it.
not her. Not that thing.
Now I gotta take it away, and you're gonna have
Now
to
I'm gonna
be sad.
rip it from. It's like a toddler. It's like no.
Rip it from your
You have to like
grasp.
literally like do. Take it out of your hands.
Says now that
Well,
you
and
fill
I
your
like
hands.
below it where it says, if we think lesser things can truly satisfy, we'll forever chase the wind.
Oh my
And it
gosh.
just like gives quotes. It's like, one day I'll become someone's wife. One day I'll become someone significant. One day I'll live there or drive there. And I feel like we've talked about this before in our last
I got
videos.
chills.
Just always saying like one day this, one day that, and always like chasing something. I mean, it's good to have goals, but you are always like thinking to the next step instead of just like chasing him.
I was listening to the sermon the other day, and it was this guy who had recently gotten engaged talking about his wife, and he was like, the one thing that I heard her say that was super profound was like, in my heart of hearts and in the Bible it says that one day I will look at God in the face and he will either say, I never knew you, or he will say, well done, good and faithful servant. And so in that, he's not gonna say, well done, good and faithful wife. He's not gonna say, well done, good and faithful teacher. He's not gonna say, well done, good and faithful nurse, or whatever that thing is, homeowner, moneymaker, whatever like that thing is that you want to use to fill whatever void you feel like you have. Like, when he is going to call you up at the end of time to either be with him for eternity in heaven or not, he's not going to be looking at you and saying like, one day you'll be like whatever you want, to be wife, to be significant, to be beautiful. He's not going to say, yeah, you were the most beautiful person on the outside that I created, or you were a great wife, welcome into heaven. He's going to say, well done, good and faithful servant, you ran the race well. Like,
he's gonna look at your heart and look at, like, he's not looking at the outside of your appearance, he's looking on the inside. And at the end of the day, whether you're a teacher or a nurse, like, your first thing is like a servant to him.
Right. How much were you chasing after the Lord's heart in that?
Yeah. I was just thinking when
So
you were
good.
talking about like the little kid like pulling its fingers away, like when you're grasping.
Everybody's had that battle with the 2-year-old where it's like, give it to me.
when you're like when you're like holding on to something so tight, no matter what it is, and he's like slowly.
Or your dog has something in its mouth and you're like, that's poisonous, don't eat that. You try to like grab it out of their throat. Sorry, I'm just thinking about all these things.
As he's like pulling your fingers out, and then like you're left like this. You're like, well, what do I have? And then he's like waiting to like fill your hands with him, and then you can close your hands on him and hold on to him. I just thought of that.
It's a great parallel.
Yeah.
Do we want to read to like,
He's not fully in.
do we want to read to
The
wrap it up?
declaration?
Like kind of what we, what we
I
wrapped it
love
up
the
with the other day.
declaration.
Yeah.
As we are finishing this, we just want you to know, whoever is watching, wherever you are in life, whatever you're feeling, whatever your walk with the Lord is, whatever you find in your relationship with God or people around you. We hope that this encouraged you, and we want to continue doing these things because the whole reason that we want to do this is to spend time together, spend time with the Lord, draw people nearer to us and to God. So whatever that looks like for you, we want to encourage you. So this last part is like 1 page of the text, and the author of this book wrote it to the readers being like, I declare this over you. And as followers and as believers, I think it's important to like claim these things as your own, even if you don't fully believe them yet, because a lot of times that habit will then turn into full belief. Mm-hmm. So this is for you guys and for us. As you finish this book, this is what I want to declare over you. Whatever rejection has stolen from you, I declare that the deepest desperation you've experienced will lead to God's greatest revelation in your life. I declare that the Lord will give you relief from your unbelief. He will restore you, redeem you, and write his story, his glorious story, onto the pages of your life. It will happen. Doubt and defeat have no place in the sacred sanctuary of your heart. Bitterness, resentment, and anger have no place in a life as beautiful as yours. From now on, when misguided voices or the enemy himself tries to put you down with lies or pull you away from the truth or push you into anything that could derail your destiny, I pray that you will sense the mighty hands and heart of God. They will lift you up with truth, draw you close with his loving tenderness, and shame Satan back to hell with his resurrecting power. Resurrection. It may be a delay. Rejection. It may be a delay, it may be a distraction, it may even be a devastation for a season, but it is not your final destination. You are destined for a love that can never be diminished, tarnished, shaken, or taken. You have a story. May it be his word that becomes the word of this story. You absolutely must tell to the glory of God. Ooh, that's good.
Good.
It makes me
rip this
sad
page out of the book and tape it on my wall.
I need to type it up and like make it pretty for everybody to like hang somewhere because
true.
this is good stuff to remember. Chef's kiss. Please leave a comment below. We want to continue our group, but I'm like really like been praying and trying to figure out where we want to go next because I love the topic of this book, but I think we'd love to look at something different, like something maybe more lighthearted, or because we looked at a lot of like heartbreak and rejection and like that type of stuff in this. We'd like to look at like joy and fall in pursuit of the Lord, like that sort of thing. So if you have had any Bible studies that you loved or that were really impactful for you, please leave a comment or let us know because we'd love to try it for our next one. So, and if you want to come to group, come to group.
Yes, you're invited.
You are invited. Not uninvited.
Lady, you're invited too.
She just gave me her hot dog.
She knows it's lunchtime.
All right, well, thank you guys so much for watching. This concludes our little uninvited series, but hopefully we do many, many more with our next books that we do.
Yes.
We've enjoyed it. We've liked recapping. Hopefully you got something from it, and maybe you can join us.
Maybe.
Make sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell.
We hope you have a great week, and we'll see you real soon. Sorry, hit your bun.
Bye, guys.
You're like...